'cause we are the crystal gems who always save the day.
Hey there, Geek family. GeekMom here. Recently, the girl approached me about doing a Steven Universe cosplay. She already has the t-shirt and she wanted me to make her a sword and shield. At the time, I had no idea that Steven Universe had a sword and shield, so I had to do a little research on it. But once I looked at it and got a decent idea about what it would take to put it together, I said, okay, sure, I can do that. I found a hula hoop at the Dollar Tree and decided that would be a good base to build the shield off of. Once I had that hula hoop, I kind of came up with a decent idea of how to put something together. So the materials I'm using for this build are a dollar store hula hoop, the household foam that I had on hand from Joann, some teal seafoamy craft foam picked up at a craft store, glitter, Mod Podge, and then just your staples from your crafting kit. There are several methods that you can use for making a large circle. I'm not patient enough to use any of them, so I just took that hula hoop, laid it down on my sheet of household foam, took a lovely purple crayon, and drew around the outside edge of it. Was my circle perfect? No, but it was mostly a circle. So it worked out well for me. If you need to use another method, I totally understand that. But this was the simplest and easiest. The next thing I decided to do was to make the hula hoop not make noise anymore. So I just cut a small hole in that hula hoop and dumped out what was inside. Took a few pictures of what was inside because I'd never seen what was inside a hula hoop before. So the outer edge of Steven Universe's shield is that seafoamy teal color. Using the teal craft foam sheets that I'd gotten at the craft store and my handy dandy ruler, I measured off about 2-inch strips and cut those out. Again, you can't really use the whole sheet of foam because you're working on a curved surface and then you've got angles and it doesn't work out. So thinner strips, and then taking those strips and kind of just measuring around the outer edge of the circumference of the hula hoop to figure out exactly how long your pieces need to be just to fit around. And then cutting those smaller pieces so you have them prepared and ready to just hot glue on all the way around the circumference of the circle. These small pieces of foam that you're gluing around your hula hoop are not going to fit right next to each other. There's going to be gaps, but I'll show you how to address that later on. So this is just a process of taking those small pieces and gluing them all the way around your hula hoop until your hoop is mostly covered. Now that the hula hoop is covered, we have to make our flat circle into something dome-shaped. There are several methods to do this, but I chose to simply cut out sections of the circle to decrease the size of the outer edge. First, I found the center of the circle and used that as a reference point to choose 4 roughly equidistant places around the circle. I measured about 5 inches in from the side and made a mark, then measured about 1 inch along the edge and scored the foam using my ruler as a straight edge, making wedges to cut out. Once the 4 wedges were removed, I used hot glue to glue the foam back together. Many crafters prefer to use epoxy or contact cement with foam, but I say use whatever strong glue you have on hand. In my house, that's hot glue. One thing that I've learned the hard way is that in order to paint foam well, you need to prep it. So I decided to try out Plastidip. This was my first time using it and I just wanted to see how it worked, but it's a spray-on product that you can put over your foam piece, and it's there to help the paint and whatever you're going to be putting on the surface of the foam adhere better and not peel up or crack. So I put on about 3 coats, letting it dry in between each coat, and it seemed to do fairly well. The shield in the cartoon is crystal-like and somewhat sparkly. To keep the same feel without using a clear medium like plexiglass or resin, I'm using glitter. But I don't want to have to apply multiple layers of glitter to cover the black foam, so I'm basing out the shield in a silver metallic acrylic paint. As I was getting ready to start my glittering process, I took a harder look at what the front of the shield looked like and realized that there was a floral design kind of in the middle of it. So I had to figure out a way to make that design and do it in a fairly easy manner. What I ended up doing was using a roll of painter's tape as a guide to make a circle. I traced the outer portion of the painter's tape, the inner portion of the painter's tape roll, and then kind of measured off to make the petal design that's on there and cut it out. Now I did all of this on a brown paper bag, so awesome materials that I use. And then in order to do the spiral of the vine itself, I freehanded that by just using a purple crayon. So again, I like purple. I took that floral design I had cut out of the paper bag and taped it down into the approximate center of the dome, and using that purple crayon just freehanded a spiral straight out from one of the points of that flower around the dome itself. The purple showed up pretty good on the paint without being overwhelming, so it wasn't a big black Sharpie line, but it also didn't fade in like I was afraid a pencil line would do. Once I had the spiral for the vine drawn out on the shield, I needed to add thorns. So again, with painter's tape, I just cut out triangles and put those down on directly on the shield itself to use as a pattern for where those thorns were going to be before adding my glitter. So now that the basic design for the vine is drawn out on the shield itself and we have the thorns put down, it's time to start adding the glitter. Now again, I chose to use glitter. If you'd rather use a metallic paint, feel free. Glitter worked for me. It does get everywhere, so be prepared to use your dustbuster or your broom. But I started off using Mod Podge and a dark pink glitter with a disposable pan underneath my work surface to collect as much of the glitter as possible as it falls off of the shield. But working in a small area to begin with, I took a heavy coat of Mod Podge and put it on the shield and then just sprinkled the glitter directly on as thickly as I can. Working in these small sections like this gives you an opportunity to one, keep the work surface over that pan so that as much of the excess is falling into the pan rather than all over you and the floor as possible. But also, as I completed each section, I would tip the shield up and tap it lightly just to get that extra glitter that wasn't in the glue off of the shield before I moved on to the next section. Because my thorn design or vine design is just a line of a crayon, and it's not really very well laid out, that vine is going to be a different color than the rest of the shield, and I don't want to glue this dark pink glitter right up to the edge of my line. So I'm leaving a little bit of a gap. There's no right or wrong here, just enough that I thought was enough on either side of that crayon line, so that after I'm done with this dark pink glitter, I can go back in with my other glitter to make that vine stand out more. Once the shield itself is completely covered in that dark pink glitter, I wanted to do something to make sure, or to help ensure that the glitter didn't just brush off as soon as it was picked up or dropped or brushed against something. So I decided to take the Mod Podge and do a thick layer of Mod Podge over the glitter itself, just to give it kind of a seal. Again, I was using a really wide brush and a thick coat of the Mod Podge, so it looks like I'm painting the whole thing white. I'm using so much Mod Podge. In the end, it does give you a really good hold on all of that glitter. Once that layer of Mod Podge has had an opportunity to dry, I went back in and started to work on the vine itself. Now, I had taken all of that excess dark pink glitter that was in my container or in my pan and was able to salvage most of it, so can use it at a later date. And then that pan was now clear to use with a lighter pink glitter. So same process. I started out with a big brush and decided very quickly that it was too big and switched to a smaller one, but just taking that Mod Podge, painting it along the vine and thorns themselves, and then sprinkling that light pink glitter on there, doing the same process. Work in small sections, and as you complete each section, you tilt your design up or your shield up and just give it a light tap to get the excess to fall off in the pan rather than on your work surface and floor and person. Again, once you've gone through and put all that light pink glitter on, I did the exact same process as with the dark pink. I took a very thick layer of the Mod Podge and painted it back up the vine to help seal in that light pink glitter. The center of the flower on top of the shield has a triangle shape in it. I cut this out of foam and painted it with the same silver metallic paint as the rest of the shield. Just like the rest of the shield itself, once the silver paint had dried, I took that triangle and coated it in Mod Podge and dipped it in the light pink glitter, just to kind of give it the same color tone as everything else. And did both the top and the sides, again because that triangle is raised. I wanted to make sure that it was as covered as possible with the glitter. Once I had that triangle covered in glitter, I just adhered it to the center of the circle with hot glue. Once that was glued on fairly well, I then added some glitter around the outside edges. If you look at the shield in the show itself, that around that triangle is kind of 3 different shades of pink. Since I was working with glitter, I kind of did the best I could there using both the dark and the light pink together. So just however you want to do that, that is up to you. I did the best I could. Once I had all of that glitter down, again, a thick coating of Mod Podge just to seal it in and try to keep it from spreading everywhere else. Once all of your dome is completely dry and pretty well in place, you're going to start assembling the 2 pieces. So you're going to take your dome and your covered hula hoop and put those together. When I tried to put those together the first time, it was a little bit off. So I had to take some scissors and trim the edges of my dome just so it would fit correctly into my hula hoop. But again, the foam itself, even though it's covered, is still pretty forgiving. So stretching and moving, it will do fairly well. I used hot glue, figured out about the spot on the hula hoop I wanted the dome to sit so that the edge of the dome would be kind of covered by the hula hoop itself. But I just did a process of putting hot glue along the edges of the dome and pulling or pushing, doing whatever I needed to do to get it adhered to the spot along the hula hoop that I wanted it. Once I had the dome adhered to the hula hoop itself, I did want to go back and kind of reinforce it, so I flipped the whole thing over, and along the inside seam of where the dome and the hula hoop meet, I did another bead of hot glue all the way around. I told you earlier that I would go back and show you how to cover up those seams on the hula hoop with that foam. What I ended up doing was going back with the same teal foam and cutting some thinner strips. I used about 1-inch strips, got an approximate length from the front of the dome to the back, and cut those into smaller pieces. And then just using my hot glued those thin strips onto the hula hoop, starting at the front edge where it meets the dome, the glitter portion of the dome, and gluing it around to the back. Since I was never intended for the back of the shield to be seen, I wasn't as concerned with how the back looked. So if your pieces along the back edge of the shield are not exactly equal or clean, it's not going to be as noticeable. Since my daughter doesn't have a magical gem in her belly button that produces the shield and makes it hover there and protect her, she needed a way to hold this shield as she was going around the con. So what I ended up doing was using some leftover of that black household foam and just making some arm braces, a way for her to place her arm through one loop and hold on to another so that she had a way to hold the shield as she moved around. And that's all the pieces to my Steven Universe shield. My daughter was extremely happy with the outcome. She had a great time at the con walking around and being Steven Universe, and I couldn't be more pleased with the end product. I hope you enjoyed this Steven Universe build. I have a couple of builds in progress right now, but if there is a costume piece you'd like to see me tackle, please leave a note in the comments section below. If you're not already a member of our Geek family, please be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell so you can be the first to hear about our new content. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.